Mexico in action against South Africa. The defending champions will have to wait a few days, but they were playing yesterday. Argentina against Iceland. Lionel Messi on the bench. He'd come on and score in the second half. Nathan, where do we stand on the defending champions and their chances in this tournament?
It seemed like they're not heavily fancied, to be honest. And in some ways, I suppose you can see that. I think the nature of this tournament itself, with the sort of the rise of, say, a lot of people are expecting France, for example, to make it to those final stages. And I think a few people now are seeing some of the more negative sides of this Argentina team. You know, they're an imperfect side, but you can make the case that lots of teams are. But they still have arguably the best player in the history of the game that's going to be existing on that pitch. Obviously, someone else can make the case for, say, Ronaldo and so on. But I think they've got a good chance, but they don't feel as strong and almost like a team of destiny as they did in Qatar in 2020.
4 years on for Messi, isn't it?
Yes,
you know,
and for a lot of these players as well.
You know, you look at, for example, McAllister, who played last night. You know, he was flying at the time. He's not had a good season. There's, you know, Romero at Tottenham. The list sort of goes on. And Messi's 4 years on from actually still performing, obviously, at the last World Cup, which he did. But he had a very good support base around him. As you said, they're all a bit older, and the main man's a bit older. So I think it's very unlikely. But you know, you wouldn't rule them out after what they did 4 years ago, but I just don't see them being as strong as they were. And again, you know, 4 years on for Lionel Messi, it's difficult.
Messi, I mean, I remember watching the Champions League with PSG 2-3 years ago, and he looked well past his best at that level. At the elite level, he didn't make an impact. Now he's come to MLS and he's had an impact, but how good is he really? How impactful can he be against a serious opponent? And how often does he play against a serious opponent? How often do Argentina play against a serious opponent? So I think when it comes to the tougher games and the knockout stages, I think we'll find out then.
I think something about this tournament itself, which reminds me in some ways of the Club World Cup last year, is that there were certain stadiums which weren't full, but others that were. And I think a stadium with Lionel Messi in it will always be full.
100%.
So the support that, say, he will have and Argentina will have in those arenas will make them tough to play against. I think even though it is a foreign tournament or an away tournament for them, they will have a sense of familiarity and popularity wherever they go. There won't be many teams that will have greater support than he will. So in some ways, maybe that is the type of thing that will benefit them. But 4 years on, you know, they've also lost the likes of an Angel Di Maria, you know, somebody hugely influential for them across the last 10, 15 years. But I understand why people don't really have them down as being the favourites anymore. But that's more so to do with the quality that exists in the rest of the world.
I think they're going to flop. Round of 16, out they go.
Who losing to who?
I can't remember. I did it in my bracket.
Oh, sorry, my bad.
I'll show Craig it later.
Okay.
It'll be fascinating, I'm sure.
I will never talk about a bracket when it's on the screen.
Meanwhile, a team that I have in my bracket going to the final in action today, Portugal taking on Nigeria. Nigeria, we're an edition of ESPN FC, and like the World Cup, it is quantity over quality today. Mark Ogden is here, as is Nathan Manoa and Craig Burley. We are dark. 20 viewers. We're all dark today. 24 hours to go until the World Cup kicks off. It is the biggest World Cup ever. 104 matches, 48 teams. Mark, where's the excitement? I feel like in other tournaments there's kind of been a buzz, kind of this gravitas of a moment on the precipice of history. Yeah. Are we feeling that here?
In a word, no, but I think that's because it's three nations, so we don't know where the kind of the epicentre is. It doesn't feel like it's in the US right now. The first game's in Mexico, which I imagine will be crazy for it. But obviously there's been so much controversy in the build-up to it that it's left a sour taste, you know. Obviously the Champions League finals 10 days ago, so there's a very small gap between the end of the European season and this, but you've got the ticket prices, you've got the visa situations, the referee situation, the Somalian referee. There's so many issues, and I think that's left a sour taste and a real cloud hanging over the start of the football. But
with 48 teams, it was supposed to be bigger and better than ever, isn't it?
Yeah, and it still could be. You know, we're talking about before the tournament, and yes, there might not be as much excitement as maybe we would have hoped. But the fact is, once the football starts, some of the conversations do change. I think the point that Mark's made about some of the issues before the World Cup, they are very, very true. They're very, very prevalent. But the moment the ball is kicked, people start to watch again. I think there are other nations as well who are looking forward to seeing their teams perform at the World Cup. And I think the point he made about there not being a true epicentre, I think that does matter in some ways. But from when the games roll, people will be watching games.
Craig, you've obviously lambasted the fact that it's now extended over 48 teams coming in. But we're going to see more football, just not necessarily good football.
Not necessarily better football, just more. And not necessarily. And the interesting thing is going to be, one of the issues is going to be with the ticket and prices, and the big stadiums that the teams are going to play in, and a lot of teams that are, you know, not at the elite level, is how full the stadium's going to be. Because, you know, aesthetically, for TV, it's not a good look when we've got stadiums that are half full. Now, I don't know if that's the case or not. It might not be. It might be bustling. We just don't know. That's not going to be a good look for FIFA if that happens. Look, at this moment in time, and this could change, as Nedum said, when the football starts, at this moment in time, the rest of the world are viewing this in nothing other than a negative light. Immigration issues, ticketing prices, cost of travel, spread of the World Cup, too many games. All of these things, at this moment in time, this World Cup is going to have to be brilliant on the field to win people over. There is so much negativity, unfortunately, about coming to the US for a lot of people. And I don't think a lot of it is, I think a lot of it is untrue, but there has been some issues. I mean, I can't speak about the immigration issues because that's an immigration problem for them to resolve. But it's certainly, there's a lot of people worried about coming here, and that's not really a good place to be. So hopefully when the football starts, the stadiums are full, the football's good, and the fans are treated, which I'm sure they will, in a very good way by the American public. I've not have a problem with that. But if it goes the other way, this competition could turn sour very, very quickly.
That negativity you mentioned is kind of epitomised by the front page of L'Équipe today, the prominent French sports newspaper, leading with "Welcome to the USA," very much ironically. Donald Trump front and centre with Infantino as a puppet. Omar Artan, the referee who was denied a visa to enter the country, meaning that he can't participate within this tournament. Is that a fair summation of the feeling of people looking in?
Absolutely. But I was going to make the point, I mean, that is exactly what people are feeling, but I was in Russia, I was in Qatar prior to those tournaments, and South Africa 2010. Are the stadiums going to be ready? What's going to happen to this? What's going to happen to that? You're going to be welcoming Qatar, the migrant workers, and all these are valid issues. But as soon as the football starts, it was forgotten about. You look back on those World Cups now, you think about Mbappe in 2022, you think of, the great France team in 2018, you think of Messi last time, you think of Spain winning the World Cup in 2010. You don't think back to those World Cups and think about the pre-tournament issues. But I think in this case, because the issues are so much, they're not more important, because they were very important issues prior to those World Cup, but they're so prevalent and deep that people are so angry about it. And I think they will still linger when the football starts, because, like Craig says, they're going to be empty. Well, the stadiums are not going to be empty, but they're going to be empty seats, because fans who have spent their lives wanting to go to a World Cup can't afford to go. And we all know that World Cups are not a typical football crowd anyway. You need to have a bit of money to go to a World Cup, but it doesn't feel like a football crowd. And I think that is the issue, that football fans across the world feel like they've been cheated out of a World Cup. We heard
Gianni Infantino talking today, once again seems to be completely tone deaf, unable to read the room when asked about the situation with Omar Artan. He said, well, look, everyone just needs to chill.
Yeah, I think it's fair to say that, yes, he doesn't read the room that we expect him to be in, but he reads the room that he puts himself into. I think appeasing anybody that is in power that's helped them, the World Cup, arrive at this place, just make sure, no, you're doing a great job. Everything's fantastic. And I think we've heard this for many years beforehand. I think for him, even for discussing the ticket prices and so on, he justifies it by saying we need to bring as much money in as possible to fund all these other federations. And I'm sure people from those federations, even like Shaka Hislop, you know, our colleague, he's very happy that Trinidad gets money from this World Cup. But for the everyday person and people who are going to try and experience this possibly once in a lifetime thing, then it's not there. And it is hugely disappointing, because he's sort of, in some ways, the issues that, obviously not everybody, it might not necessarily even be the majority, but the issues that those people feel, they should matter. And I think Infantino at times just brushes it to the side. The fact that referee's not going to be there, he was voted the best referee on the continent of Africa, and he's not here. And we'll just move on, we'll forget about that. We can talk, say, for example, about Iran's situation here. They cannot stay in the USA. They have to come in just on the day and leave on the day. If we're talking about fairness from a football and competition standpoint, Iran don't have that. But for Infantino, we're just happy that we promised they were going to play, and here they are, they're going to play. It's not right for me.
Well, on the referee one, we can't really, I mean, he said his paper, I mean, I don't want to get into it because it's a customs and borders immigration issue. But people were saying, well, why can't he go and referee in Canada or Mexico? But I think part of the problem, if I'm reading this right, is that the referees are all based in Florida.
Miami. Yeah.
And the training base and the relaxation and all that sort of stuff has been done in Florida, and then they sort of disperse to the game. So that scuppers, getting round that way. Look, Gianni Infantino cares about one thing: money. It's why the Club World Cup was extended to a ridiculous amount of teams. Money. Why the World Cup is extended to 48 teams. Money. Right? He has no interest, literally, as long as it's not a disaster, and by the way, he might have noticed it's not going well, as long as it doesn't become a disaster, then he'll walk away and he'll bat away these questions. As Augie always says, he bats them away. But FIFA have got one goal, and it isn't really growing the game, it's making more money, and just making more money for themselves and their members, right? At the behest of officials, of players and player welfare. And he's at the top of this. And by the way, numerous countries apparently are very keen to vote him back in as sharp as they can.
I think this could really damage him, because he's going to stand unopposed, I'm told, next time it's up. I think it's 2027. Unopposed right now.
Is he the best candidate they have for this role?
But what he's been very clever at, which Sepp Blatter did as well, was to kind of make sure you get the votes of the African constituency, the Asian constituency. Now,
and is that because he is getting them more money?
Well, he's invested in their football, which, that is the job of FIFA. But the point I'm trying to make is that, we saw the Senegalese players, how they were treated when they got off the plane at the airport. Moroccan fans have had visas knocked back. The Somali referee. If you're representing an African nation or an Asian, Uzbekistan the same, if you're representing these nations, this guy's turned his back on you when you needed him most. The FIFA president has done nothing to help you guys get to the World Cup. Like I say, the Somali referee, the best in Africa, he's just said, chill out, everybody. So when it comes to a vote, if somebody's brave enough or bold enough outside of his power base to say, I'm going to stand against Infantino because he let us down, this could finish him off. When politicians ignore their constituents, no matter what it is or where it is, they get punished. And maybe Gianni Infantino's made the biggest mistake of his career because it'll damage him.
But this could have been an even bigger scandal. Say, for example, and I don't know the mechanics of how this may or may not have worked, but referees they're one of a kind, aren't they? In terms of, the personality you need to be able to do that job. Very difficult job, being a referee and the assistant and the fourth official and all that. What if the other FIFA officials would have come out and said, do you know what? If his papers are not right, then fine. Then fine. But if his papers are correct and he is not allowed in and you're doing nothing about it, we're on strike.
Absolutely.
How's this World Cup got... Now, that would have put people on a pedestal to say, we have to do something about this. But they haven't done anything. So Gianni Infantino is able to come out with these smarmy, half-cocked, comments about, everybody just chill. The guy's he's only just been sent home and not allowed in to a World Cup. Ridiculous.
The competition, despite all of this, will, of course, kick off tomorrow.